Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I bring you an exclusive preview of Deadhaus Sonata. I've already made a video about this game a couple of months back, but that was about its first demo version, and this time we are instead dealing with the upcoming early access release of the game. You can go back and watch my previous video for some basic information about the game, but just as a refresher, Deadhaus is a narrative-driven action RPG that's been developed by Apocalypse Studios under Dennis Dyack, the original creator of games such as Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, of which this game is being marketed as the spiritual successor of. In this video, rather than going over a list of its features, which I already did in my previous one, I want to talk about what has changed since the first demo version and what I would like to see in its future as well. But first, a few things that I want to mention are some news we recently got from a video the devs released. The first one being that, while we already knew that this game will feature co-op and that the online component will be an important part of it, Dennis mentioned that as development goes on, if they see interest from the player base, they plan to change and evolve the game into a more fully fledged MMO over the course of a 10 years development plan. The second thing is something that won't really matter to us players right now, but I found quite important nonetheless. As you've just heard me mentioning a potential lifespan of 10 years for the game, Dyack stated that he and the team are big supporters of stop killing games, and thus they are working on a technology that will allow them to handle the reins of the game to the players once the development cycle has reached its conclusion, meaning that technically, the game should neither die nor be taken out of players' hands. Obviously, this doesn't mean that we will own the game, just that we will be able to continue playing technically forever. With those news out of the way, we've also been let in on more details about the game itself. We now know that there will be both male and female versions for us to play as, and that there will be at least 7 classes to choose from: Leeches, Revenants, Wraiths, Banshees, Ghouls and Wights. Furthermore, it has been confirmed that there will be cosmetic options for our gear and weapons, and shape-shifting forms available for our character, such as, for example, turning into a wolf, a werewolf, a werebat, and so on and so forth. Now, on to the early access. First, I must give you the usual warning. I played a preview version, which will likely not be the same build you will play on release, so I experienced bugs and issues that I do not expect to find in the future. Secondly, as you know me, I will not sugarcoat the experience, but I will be as fair as possible to the game and the developers, as I pride myself to be always honest to my viewers. Let's start off with the positives. Combat has noticeably improved. It's heavier, more grounded and more impactful. It's not there yet, clearly it still needs a lot of polishing, but as I've seen the improvements firsthand, I believe it will eventually reach a very good place. There were some bugs along with it, usually due to skill interactions and ground displacement, but that's nothing they can't easily fix.
Is undying. Their strikes against us may sometimes give us pause. When their weapons gleam briefly before striking, take extra care to avoid the blow.
The biggest caveat I have with the combat as of now is that you start off really weak, and it makes the first couple of levels quite slow to get through. That is at least until you've unlocked your first few skills, which drastically change the speed you can kill enemies with. So, why do I have a problem with it? Well, it's a very minor thing all in all, but it's because I find it a bit unnecessary to slow me down that much at the beginning, just to turn me into an unstoppable killing machine shortly after. I think we could leave the experience itself as it is, but since the enemies will scale in strength along with our character, then I would lower their initial stats further, just to make progression feel a bit faster in those very early stages. Speaking of combat, in my playtest I was able to finally use a new weapon, the spear, which, given the amount of enemies we're usually facing, I like to use a lot more than the sword, due to its AoE hitbox being more practical. I can't say if there are other weapons available to find in the early access at launch, but I wouldn't count it out of the picture, given how the spear itself was a random drop I came across from standard enemies. Another thing to talk about isn't something that got better, but rather has been expanded on, and that is the voice acting. The game already features over 20 hours of amazingly voice acted narration, which you can find under all of its systems and lore books.
Laterum is named for its many sides, straight edges which a planet should not have, and yet it shines in the night sky. A glinting polygon, unique among the many lights. In the battle that formed Malorum, an avatar of Ohm was critically damaged. While it arrived to the conflict far larger than any of Malorum's mountains, it was reduced to no larger than an apple by the battle's end. What remained of the avatar fled to Laterum, which was little more than a sphere of iron and rock at the time. But Ohm's influence brings order, and long before eyes opened to the night sky on Malorum, the iron of Laterum was reordered into geometric lattices, half its face in light, half in the wretched day is brightest now, and El Sabaoth is at the height of his power. Celestial magics are strengthened when the shadows are shortest. With the sun directly above, a vampire's blood pulls downward, bidding us bury ourselves in Malorum until the day passes. But we must endure this pain. We have hours yet until the darkness comes. Anilun, the Crow. Anilun means Moon of Souls, which means Month of Souls. On the first day of the month of souls, the moon's light weakens the barrier to the realm of the dead, and souls wander Malorum freely. This is of much consternation to the Banshees, whose work is to guide souls to the realm of the dead.
That alone was the main pull for me to play the game. It was so interesting to just sit down and listen to the narrator explain every element of my character and teach me about the world and its stories, and I just want more of it. You might find this to be just another feature, but in my eyes it's what makes the world feel alive. No pun intended. It's what makes the player feel immersed in it, and it's a great telling sign that they've been working hard on the world building aspects of the game. Also, while it wasn't available to me yet, it has already been teased that in the future we will even be able to choose the voice of our narrator, as they are already working on giving us more options. Moving on, the early access features more levels to explore than what the demo had, in the form of a linear progression through them. After the tutorial, you go from the starting area, the Charnel Vale, into the Thasian Catacombs, which then lead to the Ashen Temple, and each of these maps are unique in purpose and gameplay. To expand on it, the Charnel Vale is your typical open area to explore that serves, let's say, as a crossroad to get to other areas. The Catacombs instead were a sort of randomly generated maze split in multiple levels, where the goal was to complete the objectives and find the exit. Clearing the catacombs unlocked the Ashen Temple, yet another area in which we had a few objectives to clear and secrets to find, this time in a more linear way, but with a surprise at the end. The first real boss fight, Sir Kyle the Just. I won't lie, he kicked my ass. Twice, but honestly I am not even sure I was supposed to beat him. Let me show you why.
the one of mines. The dance macabre. They shall not see the blow that strikes them down, nor shall they hear it. They will be dead before they hit the ground, each a step in the dance macabre.
As you saw, it was quite a difficult scenario, although I believe with some more grinding I could have gotten my character strong enough to probably beat his ass. But I figured I would rather wait for the game to actually come out and receive a few patches before trying again. As such, I must apologize, as I can't say if this boss fight marks the end of the early access version of the game, or if there is more content to explore after. The last major change is about the visuals. You might have noticed it already, but the game looks a lot better now. The colors are more vibrant and there is more detail almost everywhere, including the user interface, which has seen an overhauled look, further strengthening its identity. Now onto the negatives. I will not be listing the bugs I came across, as I don't know if they will be fixed by the time the game is live. So all you need to know is that I did encounter some bugs, but nothing game breaking, and they weren't that many as well. Instead, what did indeed break the game for me was the aforementioned visual upgrades. I don't have a truly high-end machine, neither a low-spec one. I'm running an RTX 5080 along with a Ryzen 7 7800 X3D, and yet the game was really struggling with performances. While we did get an upgraded version of the settings menu, we still don't have full control over the individual settings. You can only change the main graphical preset and a few other options, and there is something on the high and highest presets that is seriously taking the performances of the game. I've run various tests, RTX on and off, Mega Lights on and off, tested all the presets, and this is the conclusion I came to. I believe the issue is something to do with the global illumination, as the visual jump from medium to high is quite big, and so is the performance. All in all, it wasn't the smoothest experience, but I could still push it to high when in the Channel Vale and in the Ashen Temple. But unfortunately the Catacombs were a completely different story. That map had some serious issues, as depending on my camera direction, my frame rate would drop drastically, making it almost unplayable at times. The only thing that helped there was lowering the graphics to low. But, like I mentioned earlier, once you go below high, it messes up with the global illumination, which in turn made the Catacombs incredibly dark. So I was left with a choice to see what was around me but play at a low frame rate, or have a better time but see nothing around me. And in the end I chose the former. It didn't help that we don't have a minimap. which is something I would like to see added to the game. If not in open areas, at least in maps like the Catacombs, where it's a randomized maze-like deep layout with many dead ends that lead you nowhere, forcing you to remember every turn you took, when you will inevitably have to backtrack. To their merit, the game does have a tracking system for objectives that shows you a trail of blood to follow in order to find them. But as of now, it felt very unreliable. It seemed to work only outside of combat, and even then at times it wouldn't really work at all. And that's why I would be happy to also have a minimap on screen. And that is pretty much all that I have to complain about the game for now. The biggest drawback for me has been the performance. I would highly recommend the developers to really put themselves hard at work on that before the game comes out on Steam. If I'm experiencing such an issue with the machine I have, most other players will likely as well. And if I know anything about reviews, I know they won't be as kind as me when pointing it out in their comments. All in all, I don't think that anything I pointed out in the negatives won't be fixed or expanded in the future. And, as this is an early access title after all, I will abstain from casting my final judgment. As of now, I have high hopes for these developers to deliver a truly unique product in the future. But, as always, only time will tell. Hope you found this useful, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like and a comment. I will leave the game's website in the pinned comment so you can read more about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.